Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. Let's make a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Gen V Season 2, Episode 7. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we pick up with Annabeth's vision. Now, I'm going to be jumping ahead kind of to the end of the episode to kind of fill in some thoughts I have about it. Obviously, even Annabeth said like her visions or whatever, like the things she see aren't like 100% accurate, but it seems like, or maybe she's not letting on how accurate it is, and maybe she's kind of like afraid to admit how accurate, because some stuff she probably hasn't been able to check, because we find out when she's talking to Jordan later on that some of her visions started when she was younger. It's interesting. So, and we kind of get the context later on that she had a vision of like what happened to their parents, which is like, that's a rough situation in general. They live with that, and it's like that's why she's so hard on Marie, because it's easier to blame to Marie, but then it's like at the end of the day she blames herself. It's like, I saw that, but she still didn't believe that her dreams were real, and it's just kind of like the harsh reality of that, because it's just kind of like that guilt has been eating away at her, because it's like that's also probably even more reason why she wants to denounce her powers, because it's like if she can just pretend like they don't exist, because acknowledging them makes her acknowledge the fact that she couldn't do anything. But it's like you were a kid, like you didn't know what was going on, you didn't know, like the general public didn't know the truth about, hey, your parents pumped you up with compound V and stuff like that, so like that's still, it's all a byproduct of your parents' choices. They might not have had like very wrong reasons for like the situation with Marie, but like the fact is that you ended up with compound V means like even after everything with Marie, like that was like, oh, she was supposed to be your miracle baby, they still made their choice to have compound V in you. So maybe they didn't have the best altruistic opinions, maybe, or most altruistic thoughts and plans, maybe, but not, and I can't paint every parent as Starlight, as Annie's mom, because Annie's mom was, she's the embodiment of like the stage mom and stuff like that, just, on the superhero side of things. But I think because we've only viewed that relationship, we haven't seen too many other relationships, but it's like knowing that people like essentially sold their kids to Vought to be like, hit up with like a pharmaceutical superpower drug, right? So you can't help but kind of view anyone who's young and going through that, you can't help but view their parents in that certain light. I mean, to be fair, we've even seen kind of like, I made it only about Annie's parents. I mean, let's look at Emma's mom as well, so I think that has to kind of be considered. So that's why I'm like, we don't know, and we'll never know what their true intentions were. Maybe they didn't have the bad intentions, but maybe there's some level of, like I said, there's like I said, that's the conundrum I keep running into. It's like, you went through all this like compound V related stuff to have Marie in the first place, but then why was Vought in your ear telling like, oh my god, you have a superpowered child, they could be famous, yada yada yada, so on and so forth, the great that could come from that. So maybe they thought Marie would eventually get powers, maybe they didn't think about it, maybe that's why Annabeth, they shot her up, because they didn't think anything was going to happen to Marie, because nothing presented itself, and maybe they needed, it's effed up to say, but maybe the family needed a cash cow. My point is, there's just so much there that it's like, and I've gone over this point over and over again ever since we got revealed that Annabeth had powers, that it's like, it's unclear and probably never will get answers to that, sadly. I mean, especially when you like tie that into the Jordan conversation too, because Jordan's trying to say like, hey, the superpower thing isn't that. I mean, it's like, yes, this craziness and all this, like it's like that like 80% of the time, but the other 20% of the time, it's good and it's kind of nice and freeing. Like it's actually pretty low key and quiet. And for Jordan, it's like right, I hid my powers because I thought my family would react a certain way, and ultimately my dad did. So, but it's like it still gave them the opportunity to be themselves in a way that they never could before. It was very freeing, but it still came at the cost of like the very complicated relationship with their family. Like I said, we see that with Emma, obviously the situation with Annabeth and Marie and their parents. really quickly, the thing about Jordan's relationship with their family that plays a pivotal role in why, and that kind of plays into the whole their relationship with Marie, because it's like, well, they kind of have abandonment fears. That's why, like, the whole Elmira of it all left a sore spot in Jordan in particular, but there's deeper layers. There's all other layers to that as well. But the whole thing of like Jordan's kind of afraid of being abandoned by people abandoning them and leaving them alone is like, well, their family like turned their back on not accepting Jordan as they are, but also it's like you thought you found that in Marie, and you finally let down your guard. You were scared. You finally said like, "I love you," and I thought we were a thing, we were an item, and then it turns out, oh no, you're just kind of doing your own thing now, and you're making these unilateral choices. Once again, you left me behind, not once but twice now, so it's just complicated all around. Either way, I'm so sorry. I went on this massive diatribe. The whole thing I was initially going to talk about in the first place was the vision itself. I do believe that what she's seeing, I think that's going to be Cypher, as we know, Thomas Godolkin, taking control of her body and calling a whole bunch of people. It might be some characters we know that might get popped. Because, I mean, Marie, as we've seen, can pop people like Victoria can. I mean, we even saw it earlier this season with, like, the GOAT. Like, she can do it. It's just a matter of, like, pushing herself and if she can control it or not. I mean, obviously, the best example of that was, like, Home Dude's penis in season 1, and also Kate's arm. That's the only way I see that, but the question is, who are the people around Marie while that's going down? Like, is that her doing it on accident? Because, I mean, we also see, like, when she really pushes her power, especially when she's trying to revive someone, it causes nosebleeds to around a lot of people around her. So maybe if she really pushes her power too much, it might lead to that where it's like, oh, you end up causing a whole bunch of casualties as a byproduct. Because, like you might inadvertently pop some heads. I mean, because I never, I'm so stupid for never drawing a parallel, because that's always been like the key sign when Victoria was ready to pop someone's head. She'd give you a little bit of a nosebleed. That was always the telltale sign that some heads were going to start popping. So that should be a sign too. So it's like, I was about to spoil the ending of a certain story. Oh God, I don't want. Oh God. There's a certain series where the story ends with the main character having psychic powers, basically blowing up their own head, which is very sad and depressing. I don't want to say what series it is, just not to spoil it, but yeah, there's a very specific comic I'm referencing in that regard, and I'm wondering if that's because, like, it's not just other people's noses that are bleeding, so does Marie. So that's why I'm like, if she probably puts too much strain, she probably will pop her own head as well as other people's in the process, and that might be what that is. Like, if she pushes it too hard and too far, that might be what that's kind of implying, and that might be the end result of what Annabeth was seeing, was like her pushing her ability too far, and then it ended up like, it does seem to have a recoil, and she like is severely drained afterwards. So she could have accidentally like popped a whole bunch of heads and kind of like did some severe brain damage to herself or something. We don't know. Like, that's my early estimation and guesstimations, because jumping ahead too, it didn't happen this episode. So pretty sure it's going to go down in the finale. It's just a question of what is going to be the lead up to that, and what is the final result, and what is going to be the aftermath of it. Now, moving on from that, staying with Marie, but more specifically the conversation between her and Kate, where Marie kept like not wanting to heal Kate. And it's like, right, you did this and you did that. It's like, I tried to heal you before, back in episode 1 when we busted your skull open. She's like, yes, but that was a few weeks ago. You wouldn't have been able to bring your sister back from the dead. You did, so that means you can't heal me. And I was curious, like, I initially was trying to look at it from a very positive standpoint of just like, oh, Marie's just scared because she doesn't know, like, well, what if I do that again, and what if I hurt you? It's like, no, it's from the side of, no, I just don't trust you, Kate. You screwed us over. Yes, I didn't want you locked up on Elmira, but you still suck. You betrayed us. You've used your powers to push us. I mean, let's also not forget all the people she pushed in general, especially with like, Sam and Luke, Andre. Like, it's a very rough thing. And yes, she's guilty about it, but she ends up having this moment later in the episode, which I think is so interesting. It's going to be an interesting parallel to make, but it's kind of like a Walking Dead moment where it's just kind of like Negan is constantly in his redemption arc, basically. Spoilers for Walking Dead, sorry, but like he has this moment later on, and like I remember Jeffrey Dean Morgan talked about like he had complicated feelings about it because he's like he sees the journey Negan's on, and then Negan makes a remark that makes it seem like, nah, have you really changed? Like the fact is that you might have made some progress, but somewhere deep down inside, this is still inside of you. That it's like, and he struggled with that, but it wasn't until later he was like, honestly, I see that and I understand it now. It just took him a while to kind of be like, do we really have to do that? Like, would his character really be that? And he's like, no, like this is true to that character. There's a moment later on, Kate, when she's like, thank you, thanks for talking, like, you know, speaking like with like I forgot what I forgot the exact wording she said. Like, oh, at least someone's thinking like reasonably or something like that. I'm butchering. I'm not saying it exactly, but she said something of that ilk, and it set Maria off. And it's like kind of showing like it's not her intention because she thinks like, right, this is the very logical thing to do, but it's like after your betrayal, like once again, I understand, but like when you've done what you've done and you were such a villain to him. I mean, you were the same person that cozy up and worked with Homelander after everything too, and what he's done. So it's like you were so okay with that then, but now the only reason why you're feeling guilty now is because Andre died. So it becomes that complicated thing of, you know, you are allowed to make mistakes and grow from them, but it's like the thing of like deep down inside, are you as apologetic? And I think she is. I think she is. Like she has an opportunity later. I think showcases like she can be sure, but you also don't know, like because certain aspects about herself, like has she fixed those nasty habits and those nasty aspects about herself without her powers, or will they just rear their ugly head? It's that thing of you're curing the symptoms and not the actual cause, if that's making any sense. So I don't know if like she's properly changed or whether there's still some of that inside of Kate, like her upbringing and everything. Just like every other character in the show, everyone's situation is fucked, and that trauma and that pain is there, and it's like until you properly deal with it, which I don't think she has, you know, that could always rear its ugly head again, even if you get your powers back. You know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, because your powers once again just amplify what's already there, and until she fixes what's there, which I don't know if she's going through the journey properly to do that. Yes, you've had speed bumps that have kind of tried to steer you towards the right, you know, learning everything that went down because of the choices you made, them ending up in Elmira, Andre dying, and then you yourself ending up in Elmira. That changes things and put things in perspective. But like I keep reiterating, who knows if that properly fixed the core issue. But I also, despite saying all this, there is so much irony behind like, oh, how much of a threat and how dangerous Kate is when it actually ends up being Marie who makes a choice. And, you know, Kate was saying like, right, she thought she was doing right at the time, just like Marie makes a choice later on that she will end up regretting. And it's because she thought she was in the right. In fact, she actually told Kate like, no, if I fix your powers, you will do this. But she's like, no, I promise I wouldn't be that person. That's why I'm giving her some leeway of like, I do believe she is trying to change and be better. And once again, that's after she made that remark and Marie kind of jumped down her throat and everything, kind of blaming her also for Andre's death. And it's like she already feels guilty enough about it, but that's a whole thing. Because I do apologize for my diatribe, but it's just kind of letting you inside my head of just kind of where my thought is with some of this stuff, and just kind of looking at it in the very interpersonal relationship dynamics, but kind of in a greater sense of how these characters interact with the world and how the world interacts with them, and what that makes of them, you know, and how they navigate all of it. These feelings, the trauma, the mistakes they made, trying to do right but doing wrong, and trying to be a hero when the world kind of seems to prove time and time again, at least from the VOD side of things, that there are no real heroes. But we've seen people have changed. We've seen the change of heart. We've seen the Maves, the A-Trains, you know? Either way, going back to Kate and Marie, they make their way to Cypher's place. And the moment Marie's like, she can only sense a heartbeat, but a weak one, I was like, well, it's got to be. Like, there's no way, like, Cypher's just going to leave, you know, Buddy alone, the body, Thomas Godolkin alone. So I was like, it's got to be that, so I was like, it's got to be polarity. And it ultimately is. He got there a little too late. And I even love that Cypher, as we saw last episode, got blindsided by the fact is that I wasn't sure what that was, but Cypher kind of breaks it down from like a scientific perspective. Obviously, it all goes over my head, but essentially, it's like somehow polarity's powers like coincide with like the brain and like mind control abilities. There's something inside the brain that like I don't know if it like was it the synapses. There's certain things that somehow polarity's power like interacts with and makes it so that he can break Cypher's mind control. And it's like cool, like, but sadly he's not in a position to really do that, especially because his condition is pretty bad and it's just worsening, especially the more he's pushing himself. So he ends up having another seizure, but Marie ends up not only stopping it, even repairing him. Now, are those fixes permanent? Who knows? Because it could also be a situation that, like, if enough continued use of his powers, he could be right back to it given enough time. That's still unclear. Like, is it the end all be all and he'll never have to worry about that again? Or if he continuously uses powers and strains himself, that it'll still happen? Because just like the conversation I was having about Kate, it's just this is more a power thing necessarily than like the personality thing, but more so like the underlying issue is still their powers, which caused the issue to begin with. So I'd assume like he will be back in a situation again if he doesn't limit how much he uses his power, and even he uses it once or twice. If he pushes himself too far, just like Andre, then we'll be right back here again. And who knows how much of it seems like based on the way the episode plays out, it does seem like she is a permafix in some regard. But if you're in a position to constantly damage yourself, then I don't know if there's going to be a limit to how many times Marie can put people back together, but maybe there isn't a limit. I mean, herself might be the limit of she can only do it so many times before it completely takes its toll. Yeah, she's drained afterwards, but we don't know if this is like a very anime-esque thing of every time she's doing it, it could be shortening her own lifespan. She might not be seeing the long repercussions of it. This might be just for the short term, it's oh, I'm drained and stuff like that, but you could be chopping years off your life for all you know. Going back to Cypher, obviously not everything going according to plan, and obviously upsets him to the point, takes off the belt, starts beating on the body that's believed to be Thomas Godolkin. It's I figured it seems like it's just to feel anything type of thing of feeling no pain, or rather you're feeling pain all the time, so you want to feel something else. Maybe this different type of pain alleviates some of what you're feeling. Maybe that's the justification. Maybe that's how that whole thing works. I don't know. But then he gets a notification from the camera system in his house and finds out, oh my God, Marie's there, and he's so happy. And it's oh, good. Which is interesting because he was seconds away from killing Godolkin, but it's just oh, the miracle walked in his lap, and it's Marie making that unilateral decision of her own. He would have killed Godolkin in that moment, but you showing up gave him hope again. You kind of gave hope to the villain to not, end it all. There's also Emma and Sam, who return to the campus looking for Marie, end up running into Rufus, couldn't remember his name earlier in the recording, him doing this whole pledge thing, and he leaves this guy, what was his name, Hampel, right out of Infinite Ass Dude. I don't know his name, but the dude of the pocket dimension asshole who shitted out a guy, and it's oh, this is your basic, you have to take the guy as a pet or some shit like that, so Sam gets stuck with him as a pledge, but then he's also dealing with the whole Greg and Emma of it all, which, Sam's got questions, and even, Jesus Christ, Emma being well, he could finger, which I think she said, he could finger me until he comes, and that'd be none of your business. And Sam's no, I get it. It's just, I'm feeling emotions I'm not used to feeling. So he's yes, I'm jealous. And he's I know in my head, I kind of have no right to be, but I'm still feeling what I'm feeling, and I'm trying to adjust to all that. I know I'm kind of weird and this and that, but it's yeah, Greg's kind of the same way because he already kind of has that, because he knows how Sam is too. So he's like, yo, the guy's kind of crazy. So they're kind of doing a whole dick measuring contest of like, oh, we need to get Emma over here. It's like, well, I'll jump her. It's like, well, nah, I can fly her. It's faster. It's like, nah, I can jump pretty far. It's like, oh, really? That doesn't really compare to flying. And it's like, okay. Legitimately you're kind of worried because I think it's meant to give you that uneasiness because of how unsteady Sam is, that you're kind of like, I'm kind of afraid he might pop off at any moment. You're kind of worried that he might kind of do something crazy and attack Greg, but he seems to be in a better place with the new meds he's on and stuff. But it's like I said, he's just trying to readjust to his new way of life, I guess, got him with the knowledge that he has now, and also he wants to be better. He's kind of facing a lot of who he is and not running from it anymore, and trying to change for the better. He wants to, it isn't just about changing for Emma's sake; it's also about changing for himself. So, but he's trying to do both. Cypher ended up contacting Marie, and obviously probably knew it would lead. I don't know if he knew for sure it would lead her to where he is, but that little training room we've been to a few times, she recognizes the noises in the background of the doors closing. I think Greg saw where they were at and ended up pointing like Emma and the others in that direction. So everyone ends up culminating there, and especially because that also the closer they're getting, the more Annabeth is having visions, and that's how her and Jordan make it there. But when the time comes, Annabeth is trying to warn Marie, but Marie is so, I think, she's so certain. I think there's a lot of things I think driving Marie, that it's like she's so adamant about killing Cypher because of what happened to Annabeth, and it's like, if I didn't bring my sister back, she would be dead right now. I think her own guilt about everything, her guilt of trying to fix like Annabeth's, like, because it's like, if I get rid of Cypher, then this all goes away. He'll never be there to threaten us anymore, and then my sister can go back to her regular life. So her need to like, funny enough, like, it's so funny because she's willing to fix so many other things, but she's choosing to leave so much other stuff either broken, or like in the case of Kate, or in the process of breaking other stuff, and that's her bond and connection with people, because it's like, you chastise Kate for her choices, and here you are making a monumentous one because you won't listen. Your sister telling you not to do this, that something might happen, but you're like, no, the only way something bad's going to happen is because you're here. It's like, let me do this. It's like, well, it's not them she saw in the vision, it's you, and now you're hearing she's telling you, like, I have the regret of I didn't act upon that vision, and like, I don't want something bad to happen again because I didn't do that. But like, she's so desperate to like, because I think she maybe it's not necessarily for Annabeth's sake, but maybe it's more so for her own sake of, if I can fix this, then it can go a long way to making things right between me and Annabeth. Maybe if I can go back to like restoring her life to normal, because I can, especially because Annabeth called her out last episode saying like, you're the danger. And it's like, if I can fix your life and fix everything, then maybe it, like I said, could be a long journey to recovery and healing their relationship to some extent, or at the very least, I can do one good thing for my sister. It's just like, I need to kill Cypher, and I think that's focus is all she's got. I mean, she tries to also say it's for the greater good too, of like, right, if we could get to Godolkin, we could deal with Cypher, and we could also deal with Homelander. But it's like, the problem is, like, you're so focused on what's in front of you, thinking you're thinking 10 steps ahead, that you're looking towards the future, but you're still so blinded. You got tunnel vision on what's in front of you. You're not willing to kind of see that you're walking into something you're not ready for. And even Jordan trying to stop her doesn't do anything. To the point Marie like lifts them all up by their blood, like she did to Jordan back at, what was that, episode 4? She's doing that to all of them. And it's like, the fact is that you would even do that. Like, I get you're trying to stop them, but like, how effed up it is that you would do that, kind of do that to your friends and make them feel like that. And then immediately, like I said, tell Kate, if I give you your powers back, do this. But Kate's like, no, like, I don't want to use my powers on people. I told you I wouldn't do that. But it's like, no, this is for their sake. And it's just like, funny enough, Kate ended up being the voice of reason in this moment, and Marie wasn't. But it's like, Could Kate be trusted in this moment with her powers? I think, but I think she probably would have tried to stop Marie. That's also why Marie didn't like. That's why she's like, because it's like if you did give her powers back in that moment, she probably would have stopped Marie in particular. Just all kinds of fucked up and sad in that situation. That and I'm so curious to see what the aftermath is going to be when you've made such a monumental mistake that you were basically the domino that knocked off. You're the one that started the dominoes falling type of situation, you know. Her and Polarity go in, and Polarity's dealing with Cypher, throwing stuff at him, but it's like, nah, he gets up, and I'm like, yeah, he's just a meat sack, so none of that's really affecting him. And then the others come in there to try and stop Cypher, because I think for him, he wasn't sure what Marie was going to do. It's like, all right, like, he probably doesn't know if Marie knows the truth and is going to deal with that body. He's like, I'm so close, but like, if I got to stop her, I got to talk to her. But it's like, if you talk to her yourself, probably would have, like, gotten a lot worse. I mean, that moment of like, oh, if he tried talking as Cypher, probably would have had the opposite effect. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows what the end result would have been. But it's Sam, Greg, and Jordan and Polarity. But Polarity's power of blocking Cypher's ability is limited to a person. So it's like you can't, he doesn't have a wide effect yet at the time. And so like he can only stop himself from being affected. But then like all Cypher has to do is like, well, I'll just hot potato between the three other people here and use them, and now like are wrecking shop and like throwing people using Greg's flight, Sam's superhuman strength, the different abilities of Jordan's, like the combo people. So it's like, how can you, even if you were to use your power on one person, but it's like all he has to do is hot potato to the other, you can't simultaneously block the powers. Like all you can do is one, your focus also on trying to stop him from controlling you too. But then in that one last moment, like it gets too much, and like Polarity releases a wave and it short circuits the mind control. At the same time this is happening, Marie is healing Godolkin. It's like, right, you're Godolkin. Can you stop Cypher if I heal you? Nods. I'm like, you're falling right into his hands. And it turns out everything ends up being what I thought. Like, Godolkin was in control. Like, I was like, the way Cypher was acting, I was like, he has to be like a puppet. Oh, meat puppet conversation, the way he doesn't feel any pain. Once again, Marie registering him as a human, but it's like, oh, he has these powers. It's like, because the host body is that of a human, but he's being controlled by a suit. That it's like, you never once thought that like the person that like Godolkin was the one that was in control, because no one knew that Godolkin was a super. They just thought he was dead. They know he studies soups. They didn't know he became one. But it's like, it's got to be from that lab accident. And I'm wondering, is that what happened to his skin? Or something happened later on that was the end result of that? Because the last time we saw Godolkin in a flashback was like right when he was trying to push the fire alarm and the chemicals activated and he passed out. So in retrospect, it makes you almost wonder, like, did he already have superpowers back then? And those people who were dying, was he in control of them in that moment? Or were they all doing it out of his free will, and that moment is what gave him his powers? Or was he controlling each of those people? I never thought about that till now. I was like, could he have been controlling those people and made them inject themselves? Or like I said, or was it that incident that gave him his powers? Who knows? Like, because my assumption was like, right, something from that lab. Because I thought like, oh, maybe the guy that caught on fire, maybe it's him and not actually Godolkin. But then I was like, well, maybe it could just be like, right, Godolkin passed out in that lab. There's chemicals in the air and stuff. It might have like done that to his skin. I think I made a reference to like Cecil from Invincible. How we found out about what happened to Cecil in season 3, episode 2. In that flashback part of the episode. Luckily, before they could kill quote unquote Cypher, luckily he woke up and he was like, no, my name's Doug, I'm this. And poor bastard, he's like, I can't move, I can't hurt. It's like everything that happened to his body, he is a regular human. He was feeling all that. So his body is broken. He's just not dead, but everything that happened, he's feeling it. He was just in control. And even as Jordan said, like, it's like being in a passenger seat and you can't do anything. So he's cognizant and he's aware. He's been aware of everything that's been going on. He's just been sadly like strapped into the passenger seat the entire time. And as we've come to know, that this is all part of Sage's plan. This isn't something just Godolkin came up with himself. Like, How these two properly cross paths, it's unclear, but she's the one that's orchestrating so much. She seems to be the linchpin in everything that's happening, obviously in season 4, this, and then leading into the 5th and the final season of The Boys. But who also, we have no idea how long reaching her plans are, because for all we know, like, regardless of how The Boys end, Sage might still be around. She might end up kind of proceeding to be the big bad in the further universe, depending on how things play out, you know, like whether there's more Gen V post season 5. Like, the other confirmed project we know is a prequel with Liberty and Soldier Boy, but beyond that, like, we don't know if there's going to be like some context for the future in that setup as well. Not just like from what we've seen so far of The Boys and Gen V and stuff like that. They're like not just stuff that it would lead to eventually in those stories, but even something beyond. You know, it could be set up for the even further future of, like, you know, this universe. Who knows? But it's like Sage counted on knowing Marie and how Marie will react in certain situations. And it's like, yeah, you played right into his hands, and now, well, her hands, and now he's back and he's healed. And the moment he's talking about, like, oh, no longer feeling pain, be able to feel anything at all, and the moment he starts talking about your powers being the thing that dictates your worthiness or your worth, that's when Kate's like, I remember you saying that to me. That's Cypher. And so they try to leave, and he just looks at them. And I'm curious. Well, because Kate might have tried to push him, but also that's interesting, because that might also be why Kate's power has never, like, properly worked on him, because he's basically in autopilot mode, essentially. So, like, her power probably never would have worked on Cypher, and it's like, how would it work on would it even work on Godolkin himself, you know, like, just with the nature of what his power is. But yeah. And now the big monster is free, and poor what was his name? Was it Hampton? Or Hample, rather. His thing is, like, he can grow hands out of his feet, more specifically, like, he can, like, grow like a thumb or finger from, like, his toe or whatever. And it's like, cool, that power's wasted on you. Powers in general is garbage. He's like, he's not even the top 10, in the bottom 10% of God you. He's like the bottom 2%. And it's like, cool, take that chain leash around your neck and then, like, you know, choke yourself until you're dead. It's like, cool, who's next? And then he's walking, and you're just like, it's going to be a massacre. All he has to do is just tell each individual, because he even said it to Polarity, because he's like, oh, is that what you're going to use to cleave or cull everybody? But it's like, no, they'll do it to themselves. And it's like, yeah, all he has to do is walk by these people. Because we haven't properly seen whether he can mass control multiple people at a time. I mean, because, well, we've seen to some extent, because he's done a kind of an Inception thing. He's going 2 levels deep, because he is mind controlling Cypher, and he also controlled Jordan at the same time. So anytime he's using his power, he's always been doing it through 2 people, but we don't know what the limit is. Like, because he hasn't really ever tried to, like, mass control multiple people, so he probably can only do it one at a time, which sucks for anyone that comes across him. The people I'm the most scared of, it's like, I hope Allie and Harper don't run into him. He will definitely kill Allie. Harper has a has a better ability. She's a mimic, so her mimic abilities will probably be useful in this regard too, because, like, if she can probably mimic his powers even just for, you know, because she can, was it 30 seconds or 60 seconds she can mimic an ability. I think it's 60, but I can't remember. So she might be useful, but, like, Allie's like, oh, I can extend out my pubic hair. It's like, that's not going to be, like, useful. So, like, most likely she's probably going to die, which is going to suck, because obviously we're going to know her and her brother Greg, especially everything, which are also like, oh, is Greg going to be set up for cannon fodder, considering, like, we're setting up the whole him and Emma thing, which, like, nothing's happened yet, but it's like, well, she's starting to like him as the first person post Sam and everything. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. This next episode is the season finale. So, obviously, like, once again, set up for the 5th and final season of The Boys, but also just in general, where this story ends, where these characters end up. Because, I mean, the way you're setting up Marie, she feels like she will be a pivotal part of the final season of The Boys, but who knows? I mean, is Godolkin still going to be around? Is he going to be at play? Like, will Godolkin, like, bite the dust in the season finale? Who knows? You know? because once again, like, this is all still going according to Sage's plan. Who knows if there's been any hiccups or everything just going exactly how she's planned. It seems like, things have pivoted and she's pivoted, like she has contingencies maybe, but it's like, oh, I'm perfectly fine with things. Like, everything is within the realm of acceptability of, like, oh, there might be some small changes, but like everything's still in enough of a circumference around predictability that she's comfortable with anything happening because everything's accounted for. We'll have to wait to see what the season finale has in store for us and where this all ends up, who survives, who doesn't. There's just multiple ways this could play out, and I'm just curious to see what happens. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.